Amy was bustling about the house tidying up as usual when she suddenly heard the doorbell ring. She cautiously made her way to the door and answered the intercom. The man outside stood with his back to her, claiming he'd come to check the alarm system. But Amy hadn't received any notice from the property management about this. The worker seemed to grow rather impatient at this point. Left with little choice, Amy reluctantly opened the door and let him in. He strolled in as if he owned the place, casually plunking himself down on the sofa. He then dragged over a stool and began inspecting the alarm. Seeing this, Amy closed her bedroom door. The worker seemed to cotton on that Amy lived alone and began making rather suggestive remarks. Amy noticed his flies were undone, which left her quite speechless. During the inspection, he deliberately brought up news stories about women living alone who'd been murdered. Amy appeared somewhat nervous after hearing this. The worker then insisted on a thorough inspection and marched straight into her bedroom without so much as a by your leave. Upon spotting the black lacy lingerie laid out on the bed, his expression became decidedly lecherous. His conversation became increasingly peppered with flirtatious comments. Sensing something was amiss, Amy hurriedly urged the worker to leave, but he showed no intention of going anywhere. He announced he needed to use the loo. Whilst he was in the bathroom, she dashed into the bedroom and grabbed her stun gun. After switching off all the lights in the flat, Amy crept quietly to the bathroom door, ready to incapacitate him with the stun gun. However, at that very moment, the telly and robot Hoover both went off on their timers. When Amy turned back round, the worker had already charged out with a twisted expression, his hands clamping round her throat. But just as Amy's life hung by a thread, the agitated worker accidentally stepped on the robot Hoover, tumbling to the floor and hitting his head. Just when it seemed Amy was out of danger, as the worker crawled into the living room, the police on the telly announced new findings in their investigation. It turned out the killer was actually a woman. Looking at Amy now, the panic had vanished from her face. In the dim light, her expression had become rather unsettling. She leant against the wall, whistling, as if everything was under her control. Without a doubt, she was the deranged killer. Since things had come to this, she dropped all pretense. She pulled a kitchen knife from the drawer, pointing the blade at the worker's neck, and with one swift stroke, finished him off on the spot. After the killing, she sat quietly at her dressing table, where a vibrant bouquet of flowers stood. She slowly smiled at her reflection in the mirror, but in the next instant, her face contorted into something grotesque and chilling that would make anyone's blood run cold.